Other news, the Kansas wheat harvest limping to the finish line. 95% of the harvest is complete, with the last remaining farmers cutting along the Oklahoma state line. KSN's Jason Lamb joins me in studio now with a look at the final numbers. Jason?
Jeff, those who are still in the fields are cutting so they can report their numbers to crop insurance. This year's wheat harvest lasted an unprecedented 2 months in some areas. According to Mid-Kansas Co-op, the most consistently reported top wheat variety was AgriPro's Bob Dole seed.
It's a newer release that actually was the third most popular variety in the state this year that I think is going to gain some more interest this fall.
Heavy rains after the 4th of July filled some wheat heads, but also brought flushes of weeds.
The weather kind of did a 180 on us about the middle of May, which was a little too late, unfortunately, for some of the wheat that got abandoned in southwest Kansas. But there was some wheat that was not as far along in maturity in northwest Kansas that was able to benefit from the rains. Of course, the rains were great to replenish a lot of really drought-stricken subsoil.
The good news is the fall crop looks good, even with extended periods of triple-digit heat threatening the crop during a critical growth period.
The moisture has been great for the spring planted crops to be harvested this fall. Probably one of the things that the heat's done with the corn crop that's planted is it's really sped up the maturity here just in the last 10 days of that corn crop.
The bad news, this harvest will total 208 million bushels on 6.5 million acres, the state's smallest crop since 1966.
So genetics have come a long ways. It kind of kept a disaster from being more of a disaster. If you look back just 20 years ago when we had really tough conditions, drought conditions, the average state yield was below 20 bushels per acre. And so even in a year that we've had this amount of challenges, the wheat that did go to harvest at farm fields that didn't get abandoned, the state average is still going to be above 30 bushels per acre.
Gilpin is encouraged that soil moisture profiles are looking good, and he says Kansas farmers are more optimistic about next year's crop. Here for you, Jason Lamb, KSN News 3.